Starting a meditation practice can be incredibly intimidating to a lot of people. Just the idea of sitting still can be quite challenging, but just remembering that there is no right or wrong way and that you're really just dedicating the time for trying and attempting for yourself is really the most ideal to keep in mind. So when starting a meditation practice, it might be easier at first to lie down flat on your back, which we also call supine in that body position. If you're doing it in the morning, it might lead you to falling asleep, so sitting up might be more ideal. But really, it's about finding a comfortable position for your body. Ideally, over time, you'll find that comfortable position sitting. And you'll notice that a lot of the times when I sit, even at cons or in a practice, I will use just a basic yoga block to sit on. And the reason for that is that I have very tight hips. So a huge part of finding comfort, both in our lives and in our bodies, is just knowing ourselves, right? And one of the tightest parts of my body is my hips. I have very tight hip flexors and I have very tight hamstrings. And because of this, when I sit with my hips level with my ankles, like most people with tight hips, it's not sustainable for a long time. And you can notice when I turn to the side that even though I might have good posture right now, it's harder for my pelvis to actually root down into the ground. It's easier for my pelvis to curl forward like a bowl, which then allows me to slump. My spine is more curved, my shoulders come forward, and that way, like in my meditation, I'll just slowly find myself slumping, and then it's less ideal. It's less ideal for the diaphragm to get as much air. It's less ideal for your proper elongation of the spine. So really what our goal is here is to have a nice tall spine. It's for the root of our pelvis, the base of our pelvis, to actually be rooted into the ground and even like tipped forward slightly to where the hip bones are coming forward. And instead of letting our belly just spill out in front, we keep the navel slightly engaged. And this means that we're not going to be sucking in the belly. It just means that we're going to be activating our muscles just enough to where it's kind of like we feel like we're flexing a little bit, right? Like we're like flexing our muscles when really we're just hugging ourselves in. We're giving ourselves a little hug of security. And it helps that Kundalini energy at the base of the spine wake up and be able to travel up the spine and out of the crown of the head. So how I usually cue the body in this process is making sure that the knees can get really heavy, that my sits bones, those bones at the base of my pelvis, are actually pressing into this block or into the floor, however you're sitting, that I grow my spine up with an inhale, and it's kind of led by my heart. If you could see that, I kind of just grow my heart with a breath on the inhale, and as I exhale, I roll my shoulders down my spine. And it allows me to have a nice tall spine. My shoulders are soft, so the back of my neck is really long. And instead of looking up, which is kind of the instinct, right? When we grow up towards the sun, it's like to look up towards the sun. But we want to keep our eyes and our chin neutral, and maybe our chin even tucked in like 5 or 10%, so the back of the neck can get even longer because that's where all the energy is, right? And up and down the spine. So you'll notice here in this stature, my heart is forward. My shoulders are rolled back and the shoulder blades are actually meeting, sort of, or reaching for each other behind my heart so that I have support from behind. My heart is nice and open to the front. The support and the strength is in the back. The base of my body is nice and heavy and rooted towards the ground, but with each inhale, I let my rib cage and everything grow up towards the sky, and then I get really soft and I keep the stature in my spine while I let the air out of the belly. So as we find space for the breath, now that we have space in the torso and the spine, we want to elongate the breath. Most of us are always breathing into the chest. We're breathing in shallow into the heart space. And what we really want to do is we want to elongate that breath so it comes all the way down into the base of our belly. So if you sit here for a moment, I'm going to give you a moment just to sit. Find the comfortable seat, find the space in the spine, and then start to practice the breath. And you'll notice when you bring the attention to your breath, your mouth tends to pick up the tension. So we want to soften that space. We want to soften the area where the breath travels. So soften the tongue, we soften the inside of the cheeks. And as we inhale through the nose, down the throat, past the heart, you let the breath come into the rib cage, into the belly as you inflate the belly like a balloon. And as you exhale, you let the ribs fall. You hug in a little bit towards the belly. You let the heart fall as you get rid of all of the air. Inhaling, you get really big, you take up space. Exhale, you get nice and compact in the breath, very slowly. And what we're going to try to do here is just make our inhales and exhales even. Maybe you count to yourself to the count of 4 on the inhale, 4 on the exhale. But if counting induces any anxiety, then just follow your own breath. As we start creating space in the body with our physical practice, we start with very, very simple yogic terms and poses. We call poses in yoga asana, so you might hear me say the word asana and become familiar with it, and it really just means like a body position or a personal body expression of a pose in yoga. Asanas look different in every body, and I use yoga as a way for us to move our bodies, but you can move your body in dance, you can move your body in running, but I think yoga is a really great way to link our breath to our movement, find the flow that our body naturally wants to take, and settle into that throughout our day. So I use yoga, although I do dance, and I do hike, and I like to walk, but yoga is really the cornerstone of my physical practice. After finding the breath, finding the length in the spine, and really introducing the breath to all parts of the body, I always start moving my body in a very similar way. And that is continuing the act of waking up the spine, right? So when we say creating space in the body, what we're really doing is we're creating space between the muscles, the tendons. I always say space in our bones, but we know that anatomically there is no space in your bones. But speaking esoterically, we're creating space so that the cartilage has more mobility. We're creating more dexterity for our body in general, and really we're creating space between the vertebrae of our spine. So we do that in yoga, starting off with doing a lot of cat-cow. And cat-cow is really allowing us to jump rope the spine forward and back. So when you start with your cat-cow position, it is incredibly important to make sure that when you come to hands and knees, your wrists are right below your shoulders, your knees are right below your hips. Your knees are hips distance apart, so the legs are not touching one another. They're nice and wide. The fingers are spread nice and wide here. And then you have a nice neutral spine. So the belly is hugged in, the spine is nice and long, and as we inhale, you lift the chin, roll the shoulders back, drop the belly, curl the spine. As you exhale, you press the floor away, hug in the belly, drop the head. Inhale, roll the shoulders away from the ears, let the heart come forward. Belly makes a hammock. As you exhale, press the floor away, elbows get straight, hang the head. Inhale, maybe the elbows get even more bent this time. Exhale. And eventually, you can start moving in a circular pattern, circles with the head, circles with the pelvis. And notice how my spine is gently jump roping. And change directions. Once you finish, sink the hips back towards the heels, crawl the fingers forward, come to child's pose.